What if I told you that being a man is unfair? Would you believe me? Or what if I told you that instead that being a certain type of man is unfair? Every day all over the world, men from different backgrounds with different heights, different incomes, and different appearances are turned down and they are completely rejected by females. And what is so often the case is that you have a guy who goes through this, and over time, these experiences that he went through paint a picture in his mind, and he starts to view the world through a very specific type of lens. And then on the other hand, you have men who experience the total opposite. And you have these men who are almost never rejected by girls that they interact with. And so over time, like the other guy, they start to see the world through their own lens. And the lens of each of these men is totally different. You see, both of these men see the world and their interactions with girls in a certain way. But the way that they view the world and the way that the world actually works are two completely different things. Just because you see the world in a certain way does not mean that it is actually that way. Now imagine you have two men. Both of them have a girlfriend. Yet one man has to ask his girlfriend for permission to go out with his friends while the other man does whatever he wants. What do you think the difference is between these two types of men? Imagine you're in a situation where a guy starts talking to a girl in the gym while most girls would typically get annoyed by a guy approaching them. So the guy approaches the girl, and as he expects, he is swiftly rejected. Now imagine another guy approaches the girl, and instead of being instantaneously rejected, the girl actually welcomes a conversation with this guy, and this interaction ultimately leads to them hooking up later. What just happened here? Why is it that one man is almost instantaneously brushed off and sent packing while another is welcomed with open arms, yet both men did basically the same exact thing? Life can indeed be very unfair if you are a certain type of man. If you were to get on TikTok right now, you would find all kinds of girls who say that they will never date a guy who isn't a certain height or who doesn't make a certain amount of money, and they will only date men who have X, Y, or Z. But in reality, what they are really saying is that if you're this type of guy, I'm going to give you this set of rules, but if you are this other type of guy, I'm going to give you a different set of rules. Most of us are pretty shocked when we learn for the first time that girls allow different types of men to play by different rules, because this information is kind of like a hidden code and it's not overtly advertised to us when we are dealing with people. It's like when a celebrity and an average guy are caught doing something bad, and even though it's the same exact thing that they have done, the celebrity ends up getting away with probation while the average man actually does jail time. In the world that we live in, you will find examples of this all over the place, and yes, it is totally unfair. For example, in a place like the United States, the justice system is actually tilted towards those who have enough money or wealth to hire a good lawyer to fight their case. It's kind of crazy to think that if somebody sues you and you don't have enough money to fight the lawsuit, you will most likely lose the case by default. You see, those in powerful positions are often given first dibs on many things in life, while those without power and those without status are left to fight over the scraps. So many of us want to believe that everything is just and fair in the world, but it doesn't work like that, and the reality is that in this world things can be quite unfair. And girls are absolutely no exception to this. So often, you'll have girls who say that they will not date a man who does not make at least $100,000 per year, but then a day later you'll see the same exact girl hooking up with several men who literally have no job. Right now, whether you realize it or not, you are living under a set of rules when it comes to females, and you might not even know what this set of rules is. This is probably one of the most unfair things that you're ever going to learn, but if you're just a regular guy, you're going to be given regular guy rules. Whenever a girl sees you, she's going to naturally place you inside of one of two categories. Now, one of these categories is the regular guy, and the other is the type of guy who is allowed to break the rules. Girls will say things all the time, like they don't want to be approached by guys while they're working out in the gym. And for average men, this is definitely a hard rule that must be followed. But if you're not an average man, or if you found a way to make it so that girls do not place you into the average category, then you don't have to follow these same rules. This is the craziest thing about how girls think. Girls will often say that they will never do certain things on the first date, and if you're an average man, guess what? You better believe that she is telling the truth. But if you're a man who is placed into the second category, or the special category, the rules just don't apply to you. For hundreds upon hundreds of years now, poor people have been complaining about how the rich are evil and how they are given favoritism when it comes to all sorts of things in life. And unfortunately, this is true. It's like if your manager at work were to end the day with money missing from his cash register. If it was just an average employee in this situation, and he was the one who had cash missing from his register at the end of the day, he would most likely be reprimanded and penalized. But if it's the manager, most likely nothing would even happen to him. You see, in a perfect world, men with great power, great wealth, and great status would be treated just like everybody else, but we don't live in a perfect world, and so this is just not the case. So we would be totally delusional to think that it doesn't also work like this with girls if it works with things like money and power and all these other things. So if you're an average man, you will be the guy who girls get annoyed with when you try to approach them in the gym. But if you're the other type of man, you will get to play by a different set of rules. So what are you supposed to do if you're just an average man? What are you supposed to do if your eyes are too far apart, or if you work at Taco Bell making minimum wage and your game sucks? What can you do to get to a point where you get to decide the rules when it comes not just to girls, but to many aspects of life? Now, what nobody tells you is that many of the men who are able to play by different rules, they had to earn that position. These guys had to do things that average men will not do in order to play by a different set of rules. So what can an average man do to bend the rules in his favor? What can you do if you weren't dealt the best hand when it comes to upper body strength, which accounts for 70% of a man's physical attraction around women? What can you do if you were born into a poor family with little to no status or inherent wealth? In psychology, there is something called compensation, and compensation doesn't always have to be a bad thing. In fact, compensation simply means that you are improving one area to make up for an area where you are lacking. Now, all of this might seem really unfair if girls are placing you into the average guy category, but think about it like this. For girls, physical beauty is like the main criteria that guys use to score them. So if you're a female who is lacking physical beauty, there really isn't a whole lot that you can do to change the rules for yourself aside from things like makeup. Or if you're really wealthy, you could afford something like plastic surgery, but even then that doesn't guarantee that it can make you significantly more attractive. But with men, it's actually the total opposite. All the most important things that females use to score a man are actually things that we have full control over, such as how much money we make, what level of status we have in society, but more importantly, our fundamentals, which are things like our game, how good we are with our words, how much confidence we have. See, if you were born with average looks, or if you were born in a poor country, or you were dealt some other unfavorable hand when it comes to your attractiveness, you actually have to work even harder to get out of the average guy category. I know that's not what most guys want to hear, but it's the truth. Compensation is normal when you are compensating for things that you can't change, like what your face looks like or how tall you are. And the most unfair part about being a man is that if you're an average man, girls will make you play by average guy rules. But there's a way around this, or a back door, so to speak, and it's to earn yourself a spot amongst the category of men who don't have to play by the same rules. Men who get what they want, when they want, and how they want it. Do every single day what average men won't do, like increasing your income, increasing your status, improving your game, and eventually you guys will be able to play by a different set of rules. Not just with girls, but in all of life. And with that said, until next time, thank you so much for watching.